So now that we have a basic grid, let's look at some of the ways that we can add some search features to this. And these can be used together or separately. Generally, one search feature per grid is plenty. So let's take a look at what we can do. In the Design tab here then, we're going to go to the very top here, and on the component type choice, we're going to click the box to say that the grid contains a search part. This is one of about 2 or 3 different ways that you can have search parts in grids or provide a search facility. Well, let's start with this one. So we'll pick the search and we'll go to fields here, and we'll select the fields that we want the user to be able to search on. And let's pick last name and company and bill state region, for instance. And let's just stop right there and see what we have. So we'll go to working preview. And you can see that we have the fields that we've specified. The user can sort by whatever field they want and select the order as well as specify the records per page. So let's do a bill state region once again of MA for Massachusetts and search this, and you can see that we get just the Massachusetts records. Now, this is my own personal opinion and the way that I go at things, but I find real estate to be pretty precious on a web page. So I always look for things that I don't need. And I also think that in most cases, a well-constructed web application, one that's well thought out, shouldn't have the user needing to sort by a field, to select the field to sort by, or the number of records per page. Now, this doesn't hold true in every case, and you may have reasons why you want these, but these are a couple of things that I'll generally do away with from the defaults. So let's take a look at some of the things we might do, including shortening up these fields so it takes up a little less room and still provides what we need. Let's start with the fields themselves. We'll pick the last name field, and we'll just make it 20 long. We'll still allow 200 characters to be entered. That does no harm, but this will shorten up the space. And we'll do the same for company. It's helpful if controls are the same size. It's better than lots of varied length controls. And we're going to do something different with the bill state region later on, so we'll come back to that in a little bit. Then in the search properties, we'll come down here, and I generally turn off the include sorting list box and include records per page list box. Again, you may have reasons you want them, and you may want to take advantage of those, but you'll find that in my applications I generally turn them off. So we'll go to working preview now and see what we have. You can see we're beginning to use a little less space now, but we'll still be able to provide most of what the user is going to need here. Let's do something now with the bill state region. It'd be nice to give them a drop-down list of bill state regions, so let's do that. There are several ways to go about this, but let's go about it in a very typical manner here. We'll go to the bill state region field. One of the mistakes that I know I make, and I've seen a lot of other people make, is you may have the bill state region here in the grid itself, and then again in the search part down here. And sometimes you might be in a hurry and not realize that you're in the wrong part of your component before you start applying the various properties or adjusting the properties. So make sure you're in the search part, bill state region. And instead of a text box control type, let's go ahead and make this a drop-down box control type. So we'll click here. Now we'll come down to the choices here, and we're going to define the choices for the drop-down box. This can be a static list where you can just type in the static list. There are even some predefined lists here that include things such as the state codes. But we're going to do it a different way here. You can do a variable. We won't be doing that right here. But a variable can be constructed with a little bit of XBasic on one of the grid events. And it provides a variable value that contains all the values that are needed for the drop-down list. We won't go there right now. We are going to use a dynamic list here. So to build the dynamic list, our data source is going to be an alpha DAO data source. And we'll use our named connection string. We'll be doing this a lot throughout the system. These will be a couple of choices you'll be making very frequently. And then we'll build the select statement. This looks harder from this standpoint than it actually is. So let's click on the builder and see how easy it is. We want to get a list of states that are in the customer table. So we'll just pick the customer table here. And the field that we want to display is the bill, state, region field. Now there may be some instances, this is not one of them, where you want to display one value but store another, in which case you would just check this box and then choose the other value to store. But again, we don't need that here, so we'll just turn that off. And you can get a preview of your data in your query. Here's a list of the states. Now you notice that not all the states are here. States like Wyoming and West Virginia are not in this list, and that's because the customer table only includes 19 different states. So we can provide the user with a filtered list that's based upon exactly what's there in this case, rather than say a list of all 50 states in the United States. For those people who are using this outside the United States, I think that you'll understand what's here and still be able to appreciate how this goes. So that's all we really need to do at this point. There are some other options you can fill out, but we'll just stop right there. That's all that's absolutely necessary. So we'll click OK. Now, as I said, I'm a frequent saver of these, so we'll just save it again and go to Working Preview again. And now you can see we're starting to save a lot of space with our search facility, and our drop-down box will work very nicely. Here's our Connecticut, and here is Massachusetts once again, and let's pick New York. And you can see how nicely all that works. So that's one of the ways you can add a search facility. There's more you can do with this, obviously, but in the interest of covering a few things in a reasonable period of time, let's look at what else you might do. Let's go to Design now, and we'll go to the grid properties itself here. If we go to the grid properties, we're going to use the search properties here to actually search for the word search. And what I would like to do is use a quick search for this. You can see there's an alphabet search that's fairly popular amongst a lot of alpha users. You might explore that. But let's use a quick search. I think this is very, very useful. So we'll find the find property here. We'll scroll this up a little bit so we can see what we have. And we'll check the box to say it has a quick search. When you do that, you can see that a lot of options about the quick search become available. It could be in the grid or above the grid. We'll just leave this in the grid with a left alignment. And then it can specify the fields to search, and it can be one or multiple fields. So let's go to the builder on this. And we'll search multiple fields. And let's let it be the last name, or the city, or the bill, state, region. I generally don't like to put too much in here, but sometimes 2 or 3 fields is very helpful. You can allow a query by form style. Remember, I noted to you about the various context-sensitive help that comes up as you work through the various properties. You can see that if you want an explanation of what QBS style is, then there's an explanation of it down here. And a lot of people, a lot of users would like to use that. Sometimes you might want to restrict that and not have that. You can have a wildcard search. My preference in something like this is to do a contains search. But again, depending upon your needs, you have to choose what you want. But it's all there with point and click choices. And that's, it's just really powerful stuff with an alpha. The control type can be a text box. You can turn it into other control types if you want to, but a text box is appropriate here. We can have a clear button, and it can say this. We can set an initial selection. You can work down through here and see what's here. The text box size, what the search button label should be. But those are the basics that we've done so far. So now let's go to Working Preview once again. And we still have the search component that we put up here. But our new quick search now is right here within the grid. So we could search for NY, for New York. Remember, we specified 3 fields. I think we specified last name, city, and state, if I recall, and search. And we'll get the NYs in here. And let's search for BAR and see what we get here. We get Tom Barber because he's in the list. He's in one of the 3 fields. The BAR is in the last name field. And you can experiment with this to get what you want. You can provide a little bit better explanation for the user to say that they can type in any part of a last name or city or state in order to get what they want here. So you can really customize this quite a bit. And of course, the All button just opens this back up again to all of the records that are there. So that's the second search facility that you can have. A third facility that I'll point out briefly to you, it's used a little less frequently, but nonetheless I think you should know about it as long as we're covering these, is let's go back to design here. And just a little bit further down here is the query by example row. There's the alphabet custom buttons, by the way. So we can do a query by example row. And the initial display, let's go ahead and have this shown right away. And you can show or hide it here with the hyperlink. Well, let's take a look at what we get when we go to that. So here's our working preview now. So we now have three searches going on here. We've got the search component that we added here. Here's our quick search that is this piece here. But you'll see a whole new row in here now that is the QBF facility. So we can search by customer ID, first name, last name, and let's pick say WINK in here, and then we can pick the funnel. And it can be an exact match. It can be any of these choices here. And this box isn't quite, my recording box is never quite big enough to show all the choices. But you can see that you can start to build quite a nice QBF facility as well to be able to do this. So you can say that it contains this. And perhaps if you have actually let's back up here. Let's clear all filters. Let's go to the build state region and work backwards just a little bit. Let's do where the build state region is MA, and we'll say that it needs to exactly match that. Now you may actually turn up several thousand records in your system, or several hundred records. Need to go a little further than that. So let's go to the build city and say that it must contain BOS, or even starts with, but we'll pick contains in this case. And you can see that it begins to filter down to what you want. So there are just lots of ways you can provide search facilities, and this is just one of the many examples of the strengths and the tools that are available in Alpha 5 for you. So that concludes our section on search facilities, and I think that you can follow your nose on this to get the things that you want to meet your needs.